What if your entire life was just a story, written by someone else, doomed to end in tragedy and looped until your despair becomes fuel for something worse? In this video, we're breaking down everything that happened in the new Wuthering Waves 2.4 update, both parts 1 and 2 of the main story. How the Sonorosphere trapped Lupa inside a scripted tragedy, and how Cartethyia, Rover, and Lupa finally broke the time loop. We'll go over what the Threnodians wanted to accomplish and how Septimont became a stage for a much bigger plan. Because Fragsidus isn't done. With Frolova stealing a powerful Threnodian gem and the hunting grounds soon to be in focus, we'll also explore what might be coming next. Today's video is sponsored by Wuthering Waves, and honestly, I'm so excited about this. I've been wanting to cover this game's lore for a while now, so the fact that they actually commissioned me to make this video is a dream come true. I'm incredibly grateful for this sponsorship and even more grateful that I get to go on this adventure with you. If you haven't played Wuthering Waves yet, now is the perfect time to jump in. You can download the game using the link in the description and the pinned comment down below. Support the channel, support the story, and let's have some fun, shall we? To understand how Septimont got caught in this loop and what Fragsidus is planning next, we need to start at the root of it all, the Leviathan. Because everything from the Sonorosphere to the script traces back to this deadly force and the mind fragments it left behind. The Leviathan is a massive seaborne tacit discord that seeks to escape the ocean and dominate the surface by corrupting humanity. Its fragmented consciousness is known as a Threnodians, sentient fractions of its mind that act as its voice, while it's weak and can't manifest in its full form yet. These fragments can hijack bodies, plant nightmares, and manipulate reality through looping narratives called scripts. 20 years ago, one such Threnodian began raising children in the seaside state of Raguna, hoping to cultivate an obedient resonator, a human capable of channeling resonance and serving as its physical vessel. That plan was abandoned when a prodigy named Cartethyia awakened. She was deemed the perfect candidate, and the remaining children were discarded as failures. One of those so-called failures, Mia, left Raguna with her foster parents and eventually settled in Septimont, where she trained as a gladiator and rose to the ranks of the Great Aegon, the city's legendary 3-day tournament. After suffering a devastating loss in the finals, her shattered confidence left her vulnerable. A Threnodian seized the moment, slipping into her mind and guiding her toward a hidden structure beneath the city, the Central Hub. The Central Hub is a concealed facility built by the Sentinels, specifically Sentinel Imperator, deep beneath Septimont. It functions as a resonance control core, a sealed system designed to regulate and suppress unstable resonance, particularly that associated with tacit discords. Using Mia as a pawn with mind control, the Threnodian guided her toward the hidden vault known as the Veil of Glory. Publicly, the Veil of Glory was a place of honor for champions of the Great Aegon. Secretly, it was the entrance to the Central Hub. To the Threnodian, the Veil was the key to unleashing the Dark Tide. It couldn't access the hub directly, so it used hosts like Mia and later Lupa to enter the Veil and corrupt the system from within. Because the Veil is tied to Septimont's strongest emotions, glory, pride, defeat, it also amplified the resonance needed for the Threnodian and by extension the Leviathan to grow stronger. When Mia realized she was being used, she turned her own weapon on herself and jumped into the sea, hoping her death would stop the invasion. But death unfortunately made her more useful. Her body sank, but the Threnodian within her remained. Her corpse was recovered by Julia, a noblewoman from Septimont who's seeking political leverage, and a partnership with Fragsidus delivered it to Cristoforo, a traveling playwright secretly working with Fragsidus, a shadow organization devoted to triggering the True Lament, an event where humanity merges with Threnodians to evolve into a higher form. Cristoforo turned the city's underground into a lab and created a Sonorosphere, a looping pocket reality. He wrote a script to replay the final 3 days of the Great Aegon with altered roles. In his script's first version, Lupa, a rising gladiator, wins the tournament but is deceived by Julia. Under the Threnodian's control, she unknowingly contaminates the hub, unleashing the Dark Tide, a flood of corrupted resonance that floods and destroys Septimont. In reality, Mia was the original rising gladiator, the true protagonist who was taken over by a Threnodian. But inside the Sonorosphere, because of the script, that protagonist role is reassigned to Lupa instead. Each loop resets earlier and earlier, giving Cristoforo the chance to fine-tune the tragedy for maximum emotional impact. So now, because Cristoforo's an asshole, in every cycle, Mia's reanimated corpse, now the Armored Lady of the Sea, kills Lupa on the first day and replaces her as the story's protagonist. The Lady of the Sea kills Lupa to cause a reset. Watching Lupa rise, fall, and be erased created a continuous cycle of grief and fear. Negative emotions the Threnodian consumed to rebuild Leviathan's strength. Part 1 of the version 2.4 story throws Rover into this warped Groundhog Day of a situation, and Cartethyia senses the abnormal activity of the Threnodian. So she makes her way to Septimont and enters the sonorosphere before it completely shuts its gate, after which Cartethyia's contact with the outside world gets severed. She arrives too late to prevent the next reset. Eventually, she finds an amnesiac Lupa wandering the drowned streets of a destroyed Septimont. Believing there must be a reason the girl alone revives between cycles, Cartethyia tethers a sliver of her own frequency to Lupa, a breadcrumb she hopes Rover will eventually follow, and dives deeper. As Cartethyia investigates, the Lady of the Sea sends the Lioness of Glory to stop her. Their clash disrupts the script, loosening Cristoforo's control over the sonorosphere. As a result, the loop falters and reality starts to bleed through. Rover notices the shift and realizes they're trapped in a false version of Septimont, with Lupa unknowingly reliving Mia's tragedy. Krolova, another Fractsidus overseer last seen sabotaging the Raguna Carnival, appears. She loans Rover a stolen duplicate of the script. Her stated reason is pure curiosity, but her real agenda is subtler. Each failed tragedy gives Fractsidus better data for the next planned catastrophe. Rover eventually cuts the central hub's power, disabling the time loop, and recovers the script, restoring Lupa as the story's protagonist. So in part 2, Lupa remembers her past deaths and the previous cycles. Guided by Cartethyia's breadcrumb, she drains the old district, marches into Cristoforo's mirror maze, and learns the ugly truth. The playwright's true purpose is to nurture despair until the Threnodian can hatch from Mia's corpse into a living resonator that sings Leviathan's song. Super creepy, and honestly I felt so bad for Mia at this point. Lupa duels Lady of the Sea one last time, frees Mia's lingering soul, and cuts a Threnodian shard loose. The sonorosphere collapses, and Septimont snaps back to mundane reality. Lupa stabs Mia's sword into the earth of the veil as memorial. Cristoforo vanishes, and Frolova quietly pockets the jewel from Mia's helm, a crystallized lump of Threnodian essence. The stage is cleared, but the playwrights are still at large. Each faction in the story has both a practical goal and a deeper ideology driving their actions. Threnodian wants a physical vessel, someone who can survive its influence, walk the surface, and spread despair strong enough to shatter humanity's will to resist. Cristoforo, the playwright, believes stories are weapons. He uses tragedy like a tool, fine-tuning negative feelings to create the perfect emotional payload for the Threnodian, thereby assisting Fractsidus in their goal to merge with these Threnodians and become higher life forms. Lupa wants recognition to silence her own insecurities. But as she relives the same scripted victory and death over and over, she realizes how empty it is when the story isn't her own. Cartethyia wants only to uphold her knightly code, protect others, and defend their right to choose their own fate even in a world shaped by gods and monsters. Krolova, ever the observer, sees tragedy as necessary. To her, suffering creates stronger heroes. The more brutal the trial, the more refined the result. But Rover, throughout all of this, fights to keep the future unwritten, to protect the blank page from those who would dare to script it. At first glance, Lupa seems to embody the classic trope of a warrior prodigy, undefeated, adored, and yet insecure in her own skin. Cristoforo exploits that insecurity by offering her the coronation she dreams of, only to replace her with a monster and erase her role. Each reset drives home the same point: praise that isn't earned can shatter easily. An even more detrimental loop is in her mind, her constant mantra of "I'm not enough." Her revelation comes when Rover puts a script back into her hands. Choosing to face the Lady of the Sea one last time shows a courage rooted in conviction, not outcome. Lupa doesn't win because she's stronger, she wins because she finally acts from belief, not a need for validation. Cartethia's path is quieter but more resolute. Once Leviathan's prized creation meant to unite Sentinel and Threnodian, she instead chose a different role: protector of humanity. In 2.4, her role is unwavering. Cartethia's goal is to defend free will, expose the live predestination, and ensure that others can write their own futures. Her arc isn't necessarily about change, but about the deepening of her unwavering conviction. By the end, she becomes the paradox Imperator once dreamed of: a blade strong enough to pierce a god, forged from a will that refuses to follow any script. Lupa learns to stand without applause. Cartethyia proves that steadfastness can rewrite fate, and their alliance ultimately saves the day. Their victory may have broken the loop in Septimont, but it also exposed Fractsidus' new plans for a global tragedy. Praxedis has never hidden its ambitions for grand design. In Ragunna, they hijacked a civic festival, the Carnival, turning masquerade floats into resonance antennas. In Septimont, they transformed an entire city into a closed laboratory. Both experiments share a blueprint: isolate a population, orchestrate a spectacle, gather strong emotions, and refine it into Threnodian power. Now they have that power bottled into the portable gem that Frolova steals. And having that gem changes everything. Before this, the Threnodian energy was confined, bound to Mia's corpse and Septimont's sonorosphere. That gem is essentially a self-contained shard of that power. Praxedis no longer needs a full-scale loop or corpse to conduct experiments. Just plant that gem anywhere. Septimont's closing loops destroyed the hub and collapsed the sphere, but the gem survived. That means Praxedis, specifically Frolova, can now smuggle Threnodian energy out into the world, instantly setting up a trap. Imperator's final message references the hunting grounds of Septimont. The hunting grounds refer to a dangerous zone outside Septimont where tacit discords emerge during the high tide, and Septimontians are sent to hunt or call them. This area might actually be ideal for covert operations. Praxedis could use them as off-grid laboratories, far from public view, where they can test volatile new resonator hybrids, half-human, half-Threnodian creations that they wanted, and monitor their behavior in live combat scenarios. In short, the hunting grounds may be the next phase in Praxedis' long game. Version 2.4 reminds us that the real threat is the loss of free will. But it also shows that heroes aren't necessarily chosen. They step up for themselves. The next tragedy could start anywhere, but so can the next rebellion. And all it takes to change the story is one person refusing to follow the script. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much, Wuthering Waves, for sponsoring today's video. I'm your leafy lorekeeper Minsleif, and I read the Wuthering Waves lore so that you don't have to.